I have two confessions to make to you this morning. The first, I only have half of a sermon. Any cheers? Any weeping and gnashing of teeth, maybe? No. I like the laughter part, too. And the second confession is, I don't really understand the Trinity as a concept or as a doctrine. That may contribute to why there's only half a sermon this morning. And furthermore, I don't completely believe those who say that they do understand the Trinity in concept or doctrine. But I do know that at the very heart of the Trinity is a belief that God is inherently and irreducibly both communal and loving. One God in three persons who shared mutual and sacrificial love that spills out to the entire world and all inhabitants. And that includes all those, as Matthew says in verse 17, those, some who doubted. Yes, the spilling out of God's sacrificial love is as much for them, the doubting part, as anyone else in all of creation. For ultimately, we are called to be church in a very similar way. Loving, respecting, and caring for each other in a way that spills out into our neighborhoods and into our community in tangible and beneficial and meaningful ways. And all of that is part of what promises do. They bind us together, promises. They provide hope. And they create courage to live with each other, to support each other, to forgive each other and ourselves, and to encourage others. We're at the very heart of an authentic and nurturing relationship, when you think about it, is a promise. A promise that is a whole lot like Jesus' promise today in the gospel. I will be with you, Jesus says. I am for you, Jesus says. You can count on me, Jesus says. I've got your back, Jesus says. Let's see what we can do together, Jesus says. Always to the end of the age. The text for this day, the full score of the creation story, the blessing from Paul that the grace, love, and communion of the Trinity will be with us all, and Jesus, what we know as the Great Commission, also is what I fondly refer to as the Great Promise. We go and we teach and we baptize only because of the great promise that I, Jesus says, am with you always. A promise extending out to the end of time, and to accept ourselves. The invitation into those texts, the shared love and life of the Trinity, Jesus' great promise, the promise that makes it possible for us to dare the Great Commission. and so, so much more. Promises create relationships and possibilities. And that, it seems to me, is just what the Trinity is about as well. Well, that's my half. And what I leave you with is something to ponder for the week. And that is, what would you dream? What would you do? What would you dare if you believed that Jesus is with you no matter what? Now, not, mind you, that what you would do if you knew that you wouldn't fail. For most daring and most faithful work is because we fail. A fair amount of failure at that. But rather, what would you do if you knew that God was for you and with you, and no matter what, forever? You know, I can't wait to hear about what you wrote for the second part of the sermon next week. Blessings on the journey. Amen.